to begin this morning by saying something that might be really shocking. Are you ready? We are all living in a very unjust world. No one's shocked? I don't think that's a shocking statement to make, right? You look around and you have common sense, you can see that by and large, you and I are living in an unjust world. It's all around us, all around us. And some of you have even felt that unjustness toward you in gigantic ways. People everywhere are being unjustly treated, unjustly accused, unjustly harassed, unjustly judged. And they're doing so simply based on their race, their skin color, their gender, their social standing, their job, their age, their nationality, their religion, their values, their views, or maybe just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or maybe it's none of those things. Maybe they're experiencing unjustness simply because there are people around them that are unjust and that choose to be liars or crooks or scapegoats. And they don't care who you are. They don't care. As long as accusing you or scamming you or stealing from you or maybe even murdering you works in their favor. That's the world we live in. Now, here in America, we don't have and experience as much unjustness as many parts of the world, but we have some. I remember when Sandy and I were living in South Carolina. We were newly married, going through seminary, but I was also a youth pastor at a church, and we were just gung-ho. We were just so excited about building up this youth ministry, and in the span of about 3 or 4 weeks, we went from about 5 kids to about 85 kids. It was gigantic. How did we do that? Well, the church that we were serving at had a gym, nice gym with a full basketball court and rooms. And they also owned a bus, like a literal school bus, and someone that could drive it. And so we began to go through the neighborhoods of downtown Columbia, South Carolina, and say, hey, who wants to play basketball and have free pizza? All you have to do is a little bit of a break while you eat your pizza. You have to listen to us talk for about 30 minutes. We're going to share the gospel every single week. And kids piled into that bus. And we would play basketball. And then we would share the gospel. And it was going great. Well, in one moment, we had all kinds of kids coming in. None of them were coming Sunday morning. None of their families were coming Sunday morning. They'd never been in church before. And there was this one particular girl that I remember. She always wanted to come, but her parents never wanted to drive her. And so we would occasionally go and have somebody pick her up, or one of us would pick her up. Well, one particular day, the mom called, "Can you pick my daughter up?" No, I don't think that had ever happened before. Sure. And I felt an uneasiness in my spirit. And so I said, "Sandy, you're coming with me. You're coming with me." And so we drove out to their trailer park and went to pick her up, and she came out the door as soon as we got there, and she got in the car and we left. We didn't think anything of it. Well, the next day, the police came by. I have been given a report has been filed that you tried to kidnap a kid. What? Here, the mother had planned this whole thing. She came and she asked us, and then she accused us, or accused me, of trying to break down the door of their home to try to forcibly take this girl away. Um, she wanted us out of her daughter's life. She didn't want this church thing going on. But thankfully, I had Sandy with me. I had someone else to collaborate. We didn't we didn't take anybody. They asked us to pick her up. We picked her up. We took her together to church, and the police immediately dropped the whole thing. On another occasion, same church, we decided we're going to take as many of the kids as we can to this church camp. And so we were traveling hours away, and we tried to get as many as we could. We had this huge group go, and a bunch of the kids didn't want to go. That was fine. While we were there, got a phone call from, you guessed it, the police. I'm sorry to tell you, but your house has been broken into. How do you know my house has been broken in? Because the entire front door is torn down. That's how we know. And we're thinking, our cats, they aren't outside cats. Thankfully, the cats were fine. We went in later when we got home, a couple days later, and we found that there was only one thing missing. In my office, I had this fake car meter that would put change in it, and it was full. It had been full. It had hundreds of dollars in it. And it was gone. And we looked around. We had cash, literally cash, just sitting in the kitchen on the table. Wasn't taken. The people that broke in knew exactly where they were going and exactly what they were planning to take. And we knew exactly which kids they were. That was confirmed as we met with the kids later, and those two kids, those brothers, would not look us in the eye. We knew beyond a shadow of a doubt who it was, but we couldn't prove it, and so they got away with it. They stole hundreds of dollars. Thankfully, our cats were fine. On another occasion, a family came to the church, and we found out that they're suing the church because they said that something happened to their daughter at youth group. And this other kid had done something to their daughter during youth group. Well, we had proof, first of all, that kid that they were accusing wasn't even at youth group that night. And because we had lots of adults around, we could pinpoint where that child was during the entire time. We could prove that their accusation was false. But we talked to the insurance company, and the insurance company said, well, I can't remember the exact amount that they were suing for. It was something like $2,000, $3,000. And they said, well, you have to understand this happens all the time. These people know exactly how much to sue because it's at a threshold that if we take this to court, and even though we have an airtight case and can definitely prove, it will cost us more to go to court and to prove that it's false than just to settle outside of court for those couple $1,000s. And I said, no, I want to go to court. I want to prove. This isn't fair. They shouldn't get any money. They're just trying to use the system. And the insurance company said, sorry, we're paying the bill. We're not doing that. We're just going to give them the money. And I just left that going, this so frustrates me. This is so unfair. You ever walk away from a situation thinking that in your heart? This is just so unfair. This is so unjust. And it may even make you think, where's God in that? I mean, God knows, right? He knows everything. He's right here. He knows the situation. He knows the truth. Why doesn't he show up? Why doesn't the God of the universe somehow come down and say, whoa, 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 whoa. No, that's not true. This is what's true. Wouldn't that be awesome? And yet, in most situations, God doesn't do that. So, what is going on here? What is going on with all the unfairness and the injustice in the world? Where's God at? This is where Solomon takes us in Ecclesiastes as he's still trying to figure out, is there anything here under the sun? Now, you got to remember that phrase, under the sun, that's his code phrase. That means all the things down here that are considered without bringing God into the equation. God's not into the equation yet. He's not there. It's all the things down here. What's happening down here, and can he find meaning and purpose in things under the sun? Well, let's see what he says in verses 3:16. Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, even there was wickedness. And in the place of righteousness, even there was wickedness. So there's his code phrase, under the sun. That's our context for this passage. He's trying to make sense of the world. He's trying to find purpose and meaning first without bringing God into the equation, like so many people out there do every day, and unfortunately, so many people inside the church on a regular basis do as well. And the question he's raising here is, can justice and fairness be found under the sun without bringing God into the equation? Well, first he examines the place of justice. The place of justice. This is referring to their legal system of the day, their government, their law. That's the place of justice. And Solomon is thinking in his mind, because he's the king, right? He's ultimately in charge of all of that stuff. He's thinking, this is the one place that we absolutely should find unbiased justice in the official courts. It's the law of the land, the judges, the lawyers. We should have justice, fairness. But what does he find there? Wickedness. That word wickedness means injustice. It means unrighteousness. And it's not just the idea of injustice. It's not just the idea of unrighteousness. It's the act of it. It's the specific unjust actions, such as violence or fraud or lies. He's looking at his own court systems, and he's saying it's filled with violence and lies and corruption. It's supposed to be a place of fairness. It's supposed to be a place where people can find justice. And instead, it's wickedness. Now, I don't think you need to be the wisest person that has ever lived to see that even today, our legal system is filled with injustice. It's filled with unfairness. It's filled with corruption. It often unjustly protects some people while unjustly punishing others. But then Solomon turns his attention to the place that we would expect even more than our legal system to be just. He says the place of righteousness. The place of righteousness. Now he's talking about the religious places, the religious institutions, the religious people. He's talking in his day about the temple, about the priests, about the religious leaders, the synagogue teachers. In our world today, It's the churches, the pastors, the people. And what does he say about them? Filled with wickedness. Now, come on, Solomon. Really? That can't be true, can it? Christians aren't unjust. Christians aren't unfair, especially whole churches. Come on. Priests aren't unjust and unfair, are they? Pastors aren't unjust. They aren't unfair. Surely not. Christians don't judge. Christians don't lie or steal or manipulate or unjustly accuse or harass or belittle or abuse or put down. Right? Wrong. It happens all the time. I wish it wasn't true. With all of my being, I wish it wasn't true. But it is. And I don't think, again, that I'm saying anything new to you. We've all seen it. Sometimes we see it on the national news. Some big-name pastor has fallen. He's abused people in his congregation. Oftentimes, we don't see the headlines. It's happening in a smaller church. And you don't see the headlines, but you see the fallout in people's lives as they walk away from churches disillusioned, giving up on church and therefore giving up on God. The word that Solomon uses in this verse right here, it haunts me. It haunts me. He says, even there. In the place of justice, even there was wickedness. In the place of righteousness, even there was wickedness. It's as if he's saying, people, we've all gotten used to being used. We've all come to expect injustice, unfairness out there in the world, maybe in your family or on your job or in your neighborhood or in businesses or just life in general. We've come to expect it. You're going to get taken advantage of. You're not going to get a fair shake. But he says, but I found that unfairness is also in the two places in life. If all else failed, you should be able to depend upon. You should be able to go to. You should be able to find solace in. You should be able to find help in these two places, in the legal system, and certainly above all, in church. But he says, even there was wickedness. And those words just kind of hang there. Even there. And they make you feel cut off. They make you feel alone and without hope. Nowhere to turn. Well, a little bit later, in chapter 4, Solomon comes back to this idea of injustice. But this time he does so from a viewpoint of the individual. He kind of zooms into the individual that is experiencing the injustice, and he makes it personal. Let's look at 4:1. Again, I saw all of the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. That word oppressors means that which unjustly weighs down a person. It's this weight that you put upon another person, and it's unjust weight. And it causes physical and or emotional distress. That's what he's talking about, oppression. And the context of this passage shows us why these people are feeling oppressed, why they're feeling weighed down physically and emotionally. Because there are oppressors that are doing it. And those oppressors are leveraging their power. That word power means strength. And it refers to not just physical strength, it applies to any strength that they have. And so it's their social standing or their political standing or their economic standing or anything that gives them a leg up over the other person. They were leveraging their strength against someone else to get their way without any regard for how much it hurts. And it's the age-old story. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Survival of the fittest. It's about who can tell the best lies, who can make the best promises without really intending to keep them. Who has the most leverage, who has the most money, who has the best lawyers. And Solomon zooms in on the individual caught in the middle of all of this. And it says he sees them. He sees them. Specifically, he sees their tears. And he sees that they're crying because of all of the injustice that is against them, all of the unfairness and the hard circumstances that result because of that injustice. And he sees that they're crying because there is no one there to comfort them. There's no one to comfort them. That word comfort means to feel sorry for, to care for, to show compassion, to be kind to. And it's not just a feeling, not just an attitude. It refers to acts, physical acts that you do to care, to show kindness, to feel sorry. And I think that's really the rub with most people. Most people today kind of expect to be treated poorly. They expect to be treated wrongly and unjustly. And they expect for a life to go down unseen and often not very fun turns. But the hard part, the worst part, is that while they're going through it, while they're in a, from last week, time of weeping, time of mourning, time of breaking down, time of casting away, time of tearing, time of war, while they're going through those things, they feel utterly and completely alone. There's no one there to comfort them. And so around the world, we have women and children who are being sold into sex trafficking. We have Christians who are being persecuted by their own families. We have people languishing in jail, convicted of a crime that they didn't commit. Let me mention a controversial one. We have women and girls faced with having a child that they don't feel they can take care of, and they're contemplating abortion, which most Christians are very quick to say is murder, because it is. I want to be very clear. But many of those same Christians aren't so quick to help when the young mother decides to keep the child and needs help. Instead, they receive judgment from those same Christians instead of comfort. We have people all over the world whose lives are being torn apart by tragedy and by circumstance, because it's not just people that are unfair. The world is unfair. The weather is unfair. And we have people that are right now languishing in misery and who are feeling the rest of the world, the rest of the United States has just forgotten us. And we're all alone. And the list goes on. It happens over there in other countries. It happens out there right now down south. And it happens right here where we work and play. There's a song that I often listen to. Gives me some perspective when I need it, which is constantly. It's a song called Give Me Your Eyes by Brandon Heath. I'm not going to read the whole song, but listen to some of the words of this song. He says, step out on a busy street, see a girl, and our eyes meet. Does her best to smile at me, to hide what's underneath. There's a man just to her right, black suit and a bright red tie, too ashamed to tell his wife that he's out of work. He's just buying time. All those people going somewhere. Why have I never cared? Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the brokenhearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. I've been there 1,000,000 times. A couple of million eyes just move and pass me by. I swear I never thought I was wrong. Well, I want a second glance, so give me a second chance to see the way that you've seen the people all along. Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the brokenhearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. And I think all of us need to say that prayer from time to time. We all need to ask for Jesus' eyes. As I've prayed for the girls over the last decade or two in the mornings before school, one of the things that I often pray for is, Lord, would you give them your eyes to see the people around them the way that you see them? Because we need his eyes. Because people all around us are hurting and feeling oppressed by people or by life. And there's no one to comfort them. And they just feel alone. And we tend to get wrapped up in our own things, our own day, our own trials, our own schedule, and we just become blind to everything else around us. We need Jesus to open our eyes. So that's the first thing. You might say, okay, I get it, Pastor Andy. People are hurting. There's injustice all around us. What are we supposed to do about it? Well, number one, ask Jesus to open your eyes and to open your hearts. That has to come first. Because unless you see it, you can't do anything about it. Number two, make a choice to be the hands and feet of Jesus. to be the church that he's called us to be light. When Jesus was just beginning his ministry, he read from the book of Isaiah in the synagogue. And he was proclaiming that this is what his ministry was going to be about. This was the vision of his ministry. This is what he said in the book of Luke. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. You see, it's Jesus' heart to set people free, to comfort, and to minister to people that are just walking around feeling alone. And he wants us to be a part of that. This is what Micah says through the Lord's leading in chapter 6, verse 8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. Interestingly, that verse is couched in a chapter, an entire chapter of chapter 6 in Micah, where God is describing a throne room. He's describing a courtroom. This is a court proceeding. But it's not an earthly, under the sun court proceeding. It is a heavenly court proceeding. And the defendants, that's you and me. In the first context, it's the nation of Israel, but we could also apply it to ourselves. And the people defending themselves are saying, what do you want from us? What do you mean we're not worshiping you? What do you mean we're not doing what's right? Look at all the things that we're doing. Look at all of the sacrifices we're giving you. Look at all the money we're giving you. Look at all of the good things we're doing. And God replies back, yeah, all of those things mean nothing unless you do this. Do justice. Don't just like justice. There's an action there. Do justice. Love kindness and walk humbly with your God. He's saying, be just, and be kind to others. Open your eyes, comfort. And whenever you feel like, well, they put themselves in that position, he says, walk humbly with your God. Because most often the blessings that we have in life were sovereignly given by God. And we need to be humble about that. And to look at other people that are in other situations, harder situations, and say, but by the grace of God, that could have been me. We are to be the hands and feet of Jesus out there. So Lord, give me your eyes. Let me see specific people, Lord, that you want me to minister to, that you want me to comfort. And then help me to do what you do, to do justly, to love and kindness, and all the while walking humbly with you. Number 3, when it's appropriate, we should fight against injustice and unrighteousness. When it's appropriate, and in ways that are appropriate. And that takes wisdom, folks. Wisdom. And then finally, after all is said and done, you and I need to trust God that he will, in the end, be just and fair because he is just and fair. Solomon comes to this point himself. Look at 3:17. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every matter and for every work. You see, Solomon came to the end of himself, looking at all the injustice in the world. He's almost pulling out his hair, and he says, wait a second, let me use my wisdom here. God gave me wisdom. I just talked about chapter 3, verse 1. I just said that there is a time for everything under heaven. If you were here last week, there was a turn of the phrase. He turned from under the sun to under heaven. He's saying, now I'm going to look at things, bringing God into the mix, bringing God into the situation. And he says, there is a time for everything. Yes, sometimes it's a time for hard stuff, but there's also a time for good stuff. And so he applies that principle now to this idea of justice. And he says, if there is a time for everything under heaven, and right now we're in a time of injustice and unfairness, that stands to reason that there will be a time for justice and fairness to rule the land. And he says, God will bring it about. In fact, that's the way he closes the book of Ecclesiastes. Do you want to see the very last verse in Ecclesiastes? This is what he says. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. God will be the judge. And God is just. God is fair. In fact, the psalmist tells us that in Psalm 89, verse 14. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne, God. He rules with justice and righteousness. You can depend upon it. Down here, under the sun, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes you'll get justice. Sometimes it'll be fair, but you can't depend on it. With God, you can always depend that he's going to be just. He's going to be fair. He's going to be righteous in his judgments. And one day, he's going to gather up all of the oppressed. And in heaven, this is what he's going to do. Revelation 21. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. There will come a time, because there's a time for everything, when justice and righteousness will rule the land, because God will rule the land. And he will take all of the oppressed and wipe the tears from their eyes, and they will be oppressed no more. That time is not yet here, folks. We're not in heaven. It's coming. And that should build a healthy tension into us. That yes, we need to live down here, and we need to live in a way that God intends us to live, to be his hands and his feet, and go out there and do justice and love mercy, and to walk humbly with him, all the while longing for the day when we will be with the just and righteous judge forever. That is the point that Solomon comes to in this area of justice. And it's the point that you and I need to come to as well. Let's be light out there. A few questions to consider as we go home. Do you truly see those around you? Do you really see? Do you see their hurts? their aloneness? Or do you tend to be consumed in your own problems and your own plans? And then the next question, what are you doing to promote justice and fairness in the world? How are you comforting those who are oppressed? I want to challenge you to really consider those questions this week, because this is who God is, and this is who he's called us to be. Would you pray with me? Lord Jesus, Lord, forgive us, forgive me. When I go into a day, and I really go through the entire day so consumed in doing things, doing tasks, getting things done, that I've walked through an entire day never truly seeing people. Lord, give us your eyes that we might see the people around us the way that you do. Give us wisdom to know how we can then speak comfort and love and mercy into their hearts and lives. Practical ways that we can come around them. And Lord, help us to live in that tension of being here and seeing the work that you would have us to do, but yearning for that other place, that better place that you will one day take us. We give you all glory and all praise. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for being here this morning. Hopefully the place will look a little different next week. We will all have eyes to see it. But let's look deeper this week. Let's look farther. You are dismissed.